recording about some of my favorite dyeing resources, actually my favorite dyeing resource web page, and then the things I like to use within that web page. So when I ask people, like, where would you get dyeing supplies, they will often think of Amazon first. But in fact, Amazon is not the best source for products, especially if you're working in a specialized category, right? Amazon just pulls things from all over, throws them together, sometimes has the best price, sometimes doesn't. It's kind of like using Google, right? It's just a utility. If you want expertise, you want to go to people who are experts. I've used Dharma Trading Company for a lot of my stuff. I'm not even so getting paid. They have no idea I exist. It's just a really useful place. So I just wanted to give you some idea of some of the cool stuff that you could be doing using supplies that you can get at Dharma Trading Company. So for example, if you go right to the main page at Dharma Trading Company, you can see that they have great category or subjects that you can click on. So for example, silk painting is in fact something that I enjoy doing, and I buy most of my silk painting supplies. I started with the green label. The green label uses let's see, it's a dye set is what it's called. So it's a chemical that actually sets the dye, and there's a little kit that you can use, right? And of course the deal with the kit is that it's yeah, there it is, dye set. The deal with the kit is that it's a good starter. So I would choose the water-based as opposed to the Gouda. Gouda is another name for latex, right? So I would choose the water-based. And you can see here, $23, not so bad to get started. It has 5 colors, magenta, cyan, yellow, and black. Now the thing to know is that this sounds like, oh, that makes perfect sense, right? Like those are the colors that are used by printers to print everything. So I should be able to get every color in the world from those 4 colors. In fact, it doesn't actually work that way. And that's because colors that you create using pigments in printing are different than colors that you create using dyes. So when you blend magenta and yellow together, for example, you will only ever get certain shades of orange. You will never get other shades of orange. And that's because magenta is sort of a purple-based red, or a cool red, and you would need more of a warm red to create other shades. So eventually you'd want to buy a bottle of scarlet as well. So you can often tell projects that have been made using the starter kit because it has this limited color range. Cyan, beautiful blue, but there are other blues. Sapphire blue is gorgeous, right? Royal blue, love it, right? These are different blues that use different dyes that capture wavelengths in different ways, so they end up looking differently, right? Yellow is actually weirdly just kind of yellow that we don't have, like within watercolor, the same variety. Yellows can be like brighter and cleaner versus muddier and earthier. But in theory, there's warm yellows and cool yellows also. So this is an example of a little kit that they've put together to help you get started. Now, the green label is the ones that set with the chemical, right? But I use a red label, right? So dyes for silk painting. I use the red label, which sets with steam. The red label is more concentrated, so it's economical concentrated dye, and it must be steam set. And when it says limited color palette, it's just as limited as all of the other dyes. So, I don't feel like I'm too limited with that. But look at this here, right? So color hue, I haven't even seen those before. I get dark, vivid. Well, but you get the idea. I could actually be mixing up my own dyes using powdered acid dyes, right? So I could go even further if I wanted. But they will sell me all of these different supplies. I need to look here actually because I saw an online tutorial for how to make a dried cake of dye that could be used similarly to watercolor. The reason this is great is that you obviously don't want to throw a bottle of dye in your suitcase when you're traveling. And if you're like me and you're just obsessed with textiles, like, of course you want supplies in your suitcase for when you're traveling. What does a beautiful vista in Hawaii do except make you want to paint it with dyes? So there's an example where Dharma pulled together a whole category and showed you all kinds of handy things that you could be doing. If you follow the lists across the top, you can see that they've now put it into categories of products, right? So here they sell all kinds of dyes, including natural dyes. They separate it out by fibers. They obviously have lots of kits and starter sets that you can use, and many of these are very reasonably priced, right? Screen printing kits, batiking kits, that's silk painting as a form of batiking, stamping kits, kits for groups, like this is actually a kit for a silk painting workshop. I can tell by the brushes that they're including there, right? So if you were a school teacher, for example, which I know some of you are, then you could purchase a whole setup that could be used by your entire class. Now, fabric painting uses typically either dyes or pigments that have a thickener. And so, you know, when dyes touch each other, there's an instant reaction. Even with watercolors, I did a little demo in class where this was the red I put down, this is the blue I put down, this is the reaction that they had between them right there. Only when I really scrubbed them together did I get a purple, right? Where they touched, it's kind of this weird sort of you know, like dark red, purple, blue color there, right? So because they were having a little chemical reaction. With paints, you don't have that as much. You put the one color down, you put the other color down next to, and they stay put because of the thickeners. Another cool thing about Dharma is that you can buy what are called blanks. That's what we call them in the biz, right? But basically, they're made out of a whole variety of fibers, and they are blank, and they're ready for you to decorate. So while this may not be the most economical way to make money as an artist, it's a great start. So the blanks that you buy here are fairly competitively priced compared with blanks you could buy anywhere else in your community. They sell scarves, these are pre-hemmed. They sell fabric, so I tend to buy the fabric and then hem it myself into scarves because I like the hand-rolled hem that's higher quality look, more than Hermes style than dress barn style. They have all kinds of chemicals that you might need if you're doing more whole-scale dyeing. I'm so sorry about the lawn people. Of course, it's Murphy's Law. The minute I want to make a video, the lawn people show up. Can't blame them, though. They've got work to do. Transfer would be where you might design something in your computer and print it, right? So they're really trying to think of all the ways that people might be doing projects. Lots of books. They also have tutorials, right? All the different tools are separated out, so they might be included in a kit, but here they are separate, right? So silk painting tools that I might need. The resist, which I use for silk painting, but might also be used for a lot of other styles. This is something you definitely want to get, a resist applicator. So this little metal tip, these metal tips, those are plastic tips, but the little metal tip, that's what I use to get a really, really fine line in the resist. I actually have an air gun. It's not a gun, it's like a pressure syringe that I can use to squeeze the resist onto the fabric. You can buy yarn and fibers, so if you want to dye yarn, again, maybe not the money-making way, but it's a start, right? So in the beginning, if you want to learn how to do it, you can buy from them and then eventually work directly with a farm. And then, as I mentioned, they have tutorials, whole pages, right, featuring artists, how to do all sorts of different things, right? So they really want to support you in your dyeing adventure. I just wanted to share this because I think that some people don't know that, in fact, there are specialized places that you could be going for information about dyeing. Super.